The morning sky over Seoul was not blue anymore. Massive alien ships hung in the air like dark clouds, blocking out the sun. Captain Li Wujin stood on the deck of his warship and looked up at them. His hands were tight on the metal rail. "Sir, we have incoming transmission," said his communication officer. The young woman's voice was shaking a little. "Put it on screen," Li Wujin said. The screen flickered and showed an alien face. It had 4 eyes and skin like gray metal. When it spoke, the words came out in perfect Korean, but the voice was cold like winter ice. "People of Earth, I am High Commander Velk III of the Galactic Council. Your species has been watched. Your rapid growth concerns us. Your violent nature is dangerous to galactic peace." Li Wujin felt his jaw clench. Dangerous? Humans were dangerous? These aliens had just parked massive warships over every major city on Earth. "We offer you a choice," the alien continued. "Submit to Council authority. Allow us to guide your development. Accept our technology and our ways. You have 30 Earth days to decide." Dr. Park So-ra burst into the command center. She was breathing hard from running. "Captain, I've been analyzing their ships. The technology is incredible, but there's something strange about their fighting patterns." Li Wujin held up his hand for silence. The alien was still talking. "If you refuse our generous offer, we will be forced to take corrective action. Your chaos will not spread to other worlds. Your unpredictable nature will not threaten galactic stability. Choose wisely." The screen went black. The command center was quiet for a long moment. Then Li Wujin laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was the laugh of a man who had just been threatened by bullies. "Did that thing just tell us to behave or else?" he asked. "Yes, sir," his first officer replied. "They want us to give up our technology, our weapons, our way of life. They want to make us like them." Dr. Park So-ra stepped forward. "Captain, I need to show you something. These aliens, they're not like us at all. Their technology is advanced, but it's all based on patterns. Everything they do follows rules. Perfect, unchanging rules." She pulled up a holographic display showing the alien ships. "Look at their formation. Look at how they move. It's all mathematical, all predictable. I don't think they understand chaos at all." Admiral Kim Tae-ho's voice came over the communication system. His weathered face appeared on the main screen. "All ship commanders, report to Earth Command in 1 hour. We need to discuss our response." Li Wujin nodded to his crew. "You heard the Admiral. Helm, set course for Earth Command." As the ship moved through space toward Earth's orbital command station, Li Wujin thought about the aliens' words, corrective action. Like humans were broken children who needed to be fixed. Ambassador Yoon Haijin was already at Earth Command when they arrived. She looked tired. Dark circles under her eyes told the story of a woman who had not slept in days. "The aliens have been broadcasting the same message to every government on Earth," she said to the assembled military commanders. "Complete surrender. They want us to hand over all our weapons, all our advanced technology. They want to restructure our entire society." "What exactly do they mean by restructure?" asked Colonel Jang-mi-Young. Yoon Haijin's face was grim. "They want to eliminate what they call our chaotic tendencies. No more individual freedom. No more creative thinking. No more questioning authority. They want to turn us into obedient citizens of their galactic empire. And if we refuse?" This came from engineer Choi Dae-won, a young man who had helped design Earth's newest warships. "Then they implement what they call corrective action," Admiral Kim Tae-ho said. He had been quiet until now, but his voice carried the weight of command. "Based on our analysis of their capabilities, they could destroy our major cities within hours." The room fell silent. Li Wujin looked around at the faces of Earth's military leaders. These were people who had dedicated their lives to protecting humanity. Now they faced an enemy unlike anything they had ever seen. "What about the other alien species?" asked Dr. Park So-ra. "Surely not all of them agree with this." Yoon Haijin shook her head. "The Galactic Council is made up of 12 species. All of them seem to follow the same basic philosophy. Order above all else. Stability over freedom. They see our diversity, our creativity, our tendency to argue and fight and make mistakes as diseases that need to be cured. They're afraid of us, Li Wujin said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at him. Think about it. They have superior technology. They have massive fleets. They could have just attacked and conquered us. But instead, they're giving us 30 days to surrender. Why? Dr. Park Sora's eyes lit up. Because they don't understand us. They've studied other species and learned how to predict their behavior. But humans? We're unpredictable. Even we don't know what we'll do next sometimes. Engineer Choi Dae-won leaned forward. I've been looking at the scans of their ships. The technology is incredible, but it's also inflexible. Everything is designed for specific purposes. Our ships might be less advanced, but they're adaptable. We can modify them, change them, use them in ways they weren't originally designed for. Admiral Kim Tae-ho stood up. The question before us is simple. Do we surrender and hope they treat us well? Or do we fight and probably lose? There's a third option, Li Wujin said. We fight and win. Colonel Jang Mi-young snorted. Win? Against ships that size? With technology we can barely understand? Not win by being stronger, Li Wujin said. Win by being human. Win by doing things they don't expect. Win by refusing to follow their rules. The debate continued for hours. Some argued for negotiation. Others pushed for immediate military response. A few suggested hiding and hoping the aliens would eventually leave. Finally, Admiral Kim Tae-ho called for silence. I've heard all the arguments. Now I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to send them a message. Ambassador Yoon, prepare a formal response to the Galactic Council. Yoon Hae-jin nodded. What should it say? Kim Tae-ho smiled for the first time since the crisis began. Tell them thank you for the offer, but humanity respectfully declines. Tell them we prefer our chaos to their order. Tell them if they want compliance, they'll have to take it by force. Sir, Dr. Park So-ra said quietly, that's essentially a declaration of war. Yes, Kim Tae-ho replied. It is. As the meeting broke up, Li Wujin stayed behind. He looked out the viewing port at Earth below. Cities full of people going about, their daily lives, children playing in parks, artists creating music and paintings, scientists asking questions nobody had asked before, writers telling stories that had never been told, all of it chaos by alien standards. All of it beautiful by human standards. His communication officer's voice came over his personal communicator. Captain, the alien ships are moving into attack formation. Li Wujin took one last look at Earth, then he headed for his ship. Humanity had given its answer. Now they would have to live with the consequences or die with them, but they would do it as humans. Free, chaotic, unpredictable humans, who had never learned to bow down to anyone. The 30 days passed like a dream that slowly turned into a nightmare. Every human on Earth knew what was coming. The alien ships hung in the sky like a constant reminder of the choice. Humanity had made. Dr. Park So-ra had not slept for 3 days. Her laboratory was filled with pieces of alien technology that had fallen from the ships during their arrival. Small fragments, but enough to study. What she found made her both excited and terrified. Captain Lee, she said into her communicator, you need to see this immediately. Li Wujin arrived at her lab within the hour. He found her standing over a table covered with strange metal pieces and holographic displays. What did you find? He asked. Their weakness, she said simply. Look at this. She pointed to a display showing alien ship movement patterns. Every maneuver they make follows mathematical formulas. Perfect calculations. No improvisation at all. She switched to another display. Here's how they communicate. Everything is coded in precise patterns. No emotion. No creativity. No spontaneous decisions. Li Wujin studied the displays. They're like very advanced computers. Exactly. But computers can be hacked, patterns can be broken, and rigid thinking can be exploited. Dr. Park So-ra's eyes were bright with discovery. Captain, these aliens have never faced an enemy that fights dirty. Meanwhile, engineer Choi Dae-won was working in the shipyards. He had been taking apart human weapons and trying to combine them with alien technology. His workshop looked like a hurricane had hit it, but he was smiling. "The beautiful thing about human engineering," he said to his assistant, "is that we build things that can be changed, modified, improved. These alien weapons are incredibly powerful, but they only work one way." He held up a strange device that looked like a human missile with alien components welded to it. "This should not work according to their technology, but it will work according to ours." Colonel Jang Mi-young was planning something completely different. She had gathered her best Special Forces soldiers in a secure briefing room. Maps of alien ships covered the walls. "Forget everything you know about space combat," she told them. "These aliens fight like gentlemen. They follow rules. They expect us to follow rules too," she smiled grimly. "We're not going to be gentlemen." The countdown reached 0 on a Tuesday morning. Admiral Kim Tae-ho sat in Earth Command, surrounded by communication screens showing every major city on the planet. He had just sent humanity's final message to the Galactic Council. "Humanity respectfully declines your offer. We prefer freedom to safety. We prefer chaos to order. If you want our compliance, you'll have to take it by force." The response came within minutes. The alien ships began moving into attack formation over Earth's major cities. Their movements were precise and coordinated, like a deadly dance performed by machines. "All units, prepare for combat," Admiral Kim Tae-ho ordered. "Remember, we're not trying to match their firepower. We're trying to confuse them." The first alien attack was devastatingly efficient. Energy beams struck military targets with perfect accuracy. Orbital defense platforms were destroyed in seconds. It was clear that the aliens had studied human military doctrine and prepared countermeasures for every known tactic, but Li Wujin was not using known tactics. "Ramming speed," he ordered his helmsman. "Sir?" The young officer looked confused. "You heard me. Full speed directly at their flagship." The bridge crew stared at him. Ramming attacks had not been used in space combat for over a century. They were considered suicide missions. "Sir, our shields won't survive the impact," his first officer said. "I know," Li Wujin replied calmly, "but neither will theirs." The UDS Defiance accelerated toward the massive alien ship. The aliens tried to target the small human vessel, but their weapons were designed for long-range combat. They had no protocols for dealing with a direct ramming attack. At the last second, Li Wujin ordered all hands to escape pods. The ship's computer was programmed to continue the attack without crew. The Defiance struck the alien flagship like a bullet hitting glass. Both ships exploded in a brilliant flash of light, but Li Wujin's escape pod survived. As he floated in space, he opened a communication channel to all human forces. "This is Captain Li Wujin. The flagship is down. Repeat, the flagship is down. All units, attack pattern crazy." Attack pattern crazy was not in any military manual. It was something Li Wujin had just invented. It meant do whatever the enemy doesn't expect. Colonel Jang Mi-young's special forces launched themselves at alien ships in small pods. Instead of trying to destroy the ships, they cut through the hulls and boarded them. The aliens had never experienced boarding actions. They had no idea how to fight enemies inside their own ships. Engineer Choi Dae-won's modified weapons were causing chaos in the alien fleet. His missiles changed direction in mid-flight. His bombs exploded in patterns that made no mathematical sense. His electronic warfare devices played human music over alien communication channels. The aliens tried to adapt, but adaptation took time. Their computer systems needed to analyze new threats and develop countermeasures. But humans kept changing tactics faster than the aliens could respond. Dr. Park Sora had discovered something else important. The aliens' perfect coordination was also their weakness. When one ship was confused, it affected the entire fleet. The mathematical patterns that made them so efficient also made them vulnerable to chaos. She had developed what she called chaos bombs. They were devices that broadcast random signals on alien communication frequencies. The signals did no physical damage, but they disrupted the aliens' ability to coordinate their attacks. It's like introducing static into a perfect symphony. she explained to Admiral Kim Tae-ho. The whole performance breaks down. As the battle continued, something strange began to happen. The aliens started making mistakes. Their perfect formations began to break apart. Their precise timing started to slip. For the first time in their long history, the Galactic Council's forces were facing an enemy that refused to fight by the rules. Humans used tactics that made no logical sense. They sacrificed valuable ships for psychological effect. They treated warfare like an art form instead of a science. By the end of the first day, the alien fleet was in retreat. They had superior technology in greater numbers, but they could not predict what humans would do next. High Commander Velk-3 sent a message to the Galactic Council. The humans are not responding as predicted. Their tactics are illogical and chaotic. We require additional study time to develop appropriate countermeasures, but humanity was not giving them time to study. Li Wujin, now commanding a new ship, was planning the next phase of the war. They want to study us? He said to his crew. Let's give them something really interesting to study. Colonel Jang Mi-young's teams had captured alien communication equipment. Engineer Choi Dae-won was reverse engineering alien weapons. Dr. Park, Sora was learning how alien computer systems work. And all across Earth, ordinary humans were contributing to the war effort in ways the aliens could never predict. Artists were creating propaganda that made aliens question their beliefs. Musicians were composing songs that disrupted alien morale. Even children were inventing new games that somehow translated into military tactics. Admiral Kim Tae-ho looked at the reports coming in from around the globe. Humanity was losing by every traditional measure. Their cities were damaged, their military was outgunned. Their technology was inferior, but they were not defeated. They were getting stronger. Send a message to all human forces, he ordered. Phase 1 is complete. We've shown them that we won't surrender easily. Now we begin Phase 2. We show them that resistance is contagious. The war was just beginning. And the aliens were starting to learn that fighting humans was like trying to hold water in their hands. The harder they squeezed, the more humanity slipped through their fingers. 6 months after the first battle, the war had spread beyond Earth's orbit. Human forces were fighting throughout the solar system, but not in the way anyone expected. Lieutenant Commander Shin Jae-won was preparing for his third impossible mission of the week. His small fighter was loaded with enough explosives to destroy a city block, but he was not planning to return from this mission. Command, this is Ghost Runner requesting final clearance, he said into his radio. Clearance granted, Ghost Runner. Give them hell. Shin Jae-won smiled as he accelerated toward the massive alien dreadnought. The aliens had learned to defend against ramming attacks, but they had not learned to defend against Shin Jae-won. The alien ship fired at him with precise, calculated shots. Their computers had analyzed his flight path and determined exactly where he would be at any given moment. But Shin Jae-won was not flying a calculated path. He was flying like a madman. He rolled his fighter sideways through a gap that should have been too small. He dove under a beam of energy that should have vaporized him. He spun his ship in ways that should have torn it apart. The alien gunners could not understand what they were seeing. Their computers kept saying the human ship should be destroyed, but it kept moving. The mathematical models that had never failed before were failing now. Shin Jae-won reached the alien ship's hull and set his explosives. Then he did something the aliens did not expect. Instead of trying to escape, he flew his fighter directly into the ship's main weapons array. The explosion could be seen from Earth. Major Kang Soo-jin was watching the battle from her position inside an alien communication center. She had been hiding there for 3 weeks, learning how the aliens coordinated their fleets. The aliens communicated through perfect mathematical codes. Every message was precise and efficient. There was no room for emotion or creativity in their language. Kang Soo-jin had been slowly introducing chaos into their system. She would change small numbers in their messages. She would add random words to their communications. She would route important orders to the wrong ships. The aliens knew something was wrong, but they could not find her. Their security systems were designed to detect obvious threats. not someone who was slowly driving them insane with tiny mistakes. Target coordinate 15.7 instead of 15.8, she would whisper into their communication system. The change was so small that individual ship commanders would assume it was a transmission error. But 15 ships firing at slightly wrong coordinates meant their attack pattern would fail. Dr. Beak Chanwo was doing something even more dangerous. He was creating hybrid weapons that combined human creativity with alien technology. His laboratory was hidden deep underground, protected by systems that looked random but followed patterns only he understood. The aliens build weapons that do exactly what they're supposed to do, he explained to his assistant. We build weapons that do what they're supposed to do, plus whatever else we can think of. His latest creation looked like a normal missile, but it carried a special payload. When it hit an alien ship, it would not just explode. It would also broadcast human music, human poetry, and human laughter directly into the ship's communication system. The aliens found this incredibly disturbing. Their perfect order was being polluted by human chaos. Colonel Jang Mi-young's boarding teams had become legends among both human and alien forces. They attacked alien ships with tactics that made no military sense but somehow worked. Remember, she told her team before their latest mission, we're not trying to capture the ship, we're trying to make them afraid of us. Her soldiers would board alien vessels and then do things that no logical warrior would do. They would paint graffiti on the walls. They would leave behind human food that smelled terrible to alien senses. They would play human music so loud that it disrupted alien equipment, but most importantly, they would talk to the alien crew members. They would ask questions like, why do you follow orders without thinking? And don't you ever want to do something just because it makes you happy? These questions were like viruses in the alien mind. The aliens were trained to follow orders and maintain perfect discipline, but humans kept asking why. And slowly, some aliens started wondering why too. The war was no longer just about Earth's survival. It was becoming something much more dangerous to the Galactic Council. It was becoming a war of ideas. Captain Nam Insu was commanding a deep space reconnaissance mission when he discovered something that changed everything. His ship had been monitoring alien communications for weeks, trying to understand their strategy. What he found was that the aliens were not unified. The different species in the Galactic Council were starting to disagree about how to handle the human problem. Admiral Kim, he reported, the aliens are arguing among themselves. Some of them think the war should be ended quickly with massive force. Others think humans should be studied more carefully before any final action is taken. And what's causing this disagreement? Admiral Kim Tae-ho asked. U.S. sir, human behavior is so far outside their experience that they don't know how to respond. They're starting to question their own tactics. This was exactly what Admiral Yu Seung-wan had been hoping for. He was commanding the defense of Luna Colony, Earth's moon base, and he had been planning something that would either save humanity or destroy it completely. The alien fleet approaching Luna was massive. Hundreds of ships with enough firepower to crack the moon in half. By every logical calculation, the human defenders should surrender immediately. Instead, Admiral Yu Seung-wan ordered his forces to attack. All ships commence Operation Madness, he commanded. Operation Madness was not then in military manual. It was a battle plan that Admiral Yu had developed based on the simple principle that if you cannot win by being strong, you win by being impossible to understand. Human ships attacked the alien fleet from every direction at once. But they did not attack in coordinated waves. Each ship followed its own plan. Some ships attacked head-on, others came from behind. A few attacked from above and below simultaneously. The alien commanders tried to respond, but they could not predict where the next attack would come from. Their perfect tactical computers could not process a battle with no pattern. Admiral Yu Seung-wan's flagship was the smallest ship in the battle, but it was broadcasting human music on all frequencies. Not just any music, but the most chaotic and creative pieces humanity had ever produced. Jazz that improvised new melodies every second. Rock music that screamed defiance at the universe. Classical symphonies that built order out of chaos and then tore it down again. The alien fleet began to malfunction. Ships started firing at their own allies. Communication systems crashed under the weight of trying to process human music. Some alien crews simply stopped fighting and tried to figure out what they were hearing. "Sir," Admiral Yu's communication officer said, "the alien fleet is withdrawing." "Already?" Admiral Yu was surprised. The battle had only lasted 6 hours. "Yes, sir, they're broadcasting a message that says they need to regroup and develop new tactical approaches." Admiral Yu Seung-wan laughed. "Send them a message back. Tell them we'll be here when they're ready to try again." The defense of Luna Colony became a symbol throughout human space. A small force had defeated a massive alien fleet not through superior firepower but through superior creativity. Dr. Lim Yoon-ji, a psychologist who had been studying alien behavior, published a report that was distributed to every human military unit. "The aliens are experiencing something they have never encountered before," she wrote. "Cognitive dissonance. Their perfectly ordered minds cannot process our chaotic behavior. They are trained to expect logical responses to logical actions. But humans are not logical. We are creative, emotional, and unpredictable. Every time we do something they don't expect, we force them to question their assumptions. Every time we break their rules, we prove that their rules are not universal laws. We are not just fighting a military war. We are fighting a philosophical war, and we are winning." But even as humanity celebrated their victories, the aliens were learning too. High Commander Velk III was preparing new strategies based on months of studying human behavior. "The humans fight with their emotions instead of their logic," he reported to the Galactic Council. "This makes them unpredictable, but it also makes them vulnerable. We must find ways to use their emotions against them." The war was entering a new phase. The aliens were beginning to understand that fighting humans required abandoning their own principles. They were learning to be chaotic, and that terrified both sides. The Galactic Council was meeting an emergency session for the 5th time in 2 months. High Commander Velk III stood before the assembled representatives of 12 alien species, trying to explain why a single planet was causing the collapse of galactic order. "The human contamination is spreading," he reported. 3 member species have reported incidents of unauthorized creative expression among their populations. Citizens are asking questions that have no approved answers. Council. Leader Next Prime's 4 eyes focused on Velk III with cold precision. "Explain these incidents in detail." On Zilari Prime, workers have begun creating what they call art during their rest periods. On Corvin Station, citizens have started gathering to share personal stories that serve no productive purpose. Most disturbing on Thelan 7, children have been observed playing games with no predetermined outcomes. The chamber filled with a low humming sound that indicated deep alien distress. Unauthorized creativity was considered a dangerous mental illness in Council. Space. Dr. Lim Yoon-ji would have been fascinated to see this meeting. From her research station hidden in the asteroid belt, she was monitoring alien communications and noticing patterns that excited and terrified her. "Admiral Kim," she broadcast to Earth Command, "the aliens are showing signs of psychological breakdown. Their perfect social order is based on everyone thinking the same way. But exposure to human ideas is making some of them think differently." "How is that possible?" Admiral Kim Tae-ho responded. "They've been ordered not to listen to human broadcasts." "That's exactly the problem," Dr. Lim replied. "When you tell someone not to think about something, they can't help but think about it. We've accidentally created forbidden knowledge. And forbidden knowledge is always the most attractive kind." She was right. Throughout Council space, alien citizens were secretly listening to human music, watching human art, and reading human literature that had been captured during the early battles. The content was officially classified as dangerous mental contamination, but that only made it more interesting. On Zilari Prime, a factory worker named Kel9 had found a fragment of human poetry in the wreckage of a destroyed Earthship. The poem made no logical sense. It talked about feeling sunshine on your face and the way rain sounded on metal roofs. These were inefficient observations with no productive value, but Kel-9 read the poem 17 times before reporting it to authorities. And during those 17 readings, something changed in his mind. He began to notice that the artificial lights in his factory felt different from the natural light outside. He began to listen to the sounds of machinery and wonder what music might sound like. When he finally reported the poem, he added a note: "This human writing seems designed to make the reader experience sensations without purpose. I recommend further study to understand how this psychological weapon functions." The note was a lie. Kel-9 wanted to protect the poem, so he disguised his interest as scientific duty. It was the first intentionally deceptive act of his life, and it felt wonderful. Ambassador Yoon Hae-jin was coordinating with resistance movements that were spontaneously appearing throughout council space. She could not believe what she was seeing in the intelligence reports. "Captain Lee," she said during their weekly strategy meeting, "we have alien species asking for human military advisors. Not because they want to fight us, but because they want to fight their own governments." Lee Woo-jin, now commanding a small fleet of captured alien ships, studied the reports. "Which species?" "3 so far. The Moravians are tired of being told what to think. The Yeltani want to choose their own leaders. And the Korvash are demanding the right to create their own art. What do they want from us? They want to know how we organize a society based on individual freedom instead of collective order. They want to know how we make decisions without perfect information. They want to know how we tolerate disagreement without violence." Captain Song Kyung-ho had the strangest job in the human fleet. He was commanding a captured alien dreadnought with a crew that was half human and half alien. Defectors. Every day brought new challenges that no military academy had ever taught. "The Korvash engineer wants to paint decorations on the weapons," his first officer reported. "He says it will make them more spiritually effective." "And the Yeltani navigation officer has composed a song about our last battle. She wants to broadcast it on all frequencies. And 3 Moravian crew members have submitted formal requests to change their assigned duties because they find their current jobs boring." Song Kyung-ho rubbed his forehead. Managing a crew of newly liberated aliens was like trying to organize a kindergarten class. But somehow they were fighting more effectively than any pure alien crew ever had. "Let the Korvash paint the weapons," he decided. "Let the Yeltani broadcast her song. And let the Moravians change jobs. If they want to experience chaos, we'll give them chaos." The results were remarkable. The decorated weapons did not fire more accurately, but the crew members operated them with more enthusiasm. The navigation officer's song became a rallying cry that other alien crews started singing. And the Moravians discovered that choosing their own work made them more productive, not less. Commander and Dong-yuk was leading covert operations on alien worlds, but his mission had changed completely. Instead of sabotaging alien infrastructure, he was teaching alien civilians how to think for themselves. "It's the strangest war I've ever fought," he reported to Earth Command. "We're not destroying enemy facilities. We're holding secret classes." "What kind of classes?" Admiral Kim Tae-ho asked. "How to ask questions without knowing the answers in advance. How to make art that expresses personal feelings. How to disagree with authority figures without being executed." Commander On paused. "Admiral, I've been a soldier for 20 years. I never expected to become a teacher. Are the classes effective?" "Too effective. Half the alien governments in this sector are dealing with civil unrest. Citizens are demanding explanations for policies that have never been questioned before. Workers are refusing assignments that make no sense to them. The Galactic Council was facing a crisis unlike anything in their 1,000-year history. Their perfect order was crumbling, infected by the virus of human thinking. We must quarantine all worlds that have been exposed to human ideas, Council Leader Next Prime declared. Cut off all communication with affected populations until they can be cleansed of contamination. But High Commander Velk 3 had disturbing news. The contamination has reached the military. Ship crews are asking why they fight. Officers are questioning orders. Some units have refused to attack human positions because they want to capture more human cultural materials for study. The most alarming report came from the Nexari Collective, the Council's most advanced species. Their entire civilization was based on perfect logical algorithms that determined every aspect of life, but the algorithms were starting to malfunction. Our computational systems are generating errors, the Nexari representative reported. Citizens are submitting requests that cannot be processed because they ask for things that have never been requested before. Some are asking for the right to make mistakes. Others want permission to do things that serve no logical purpose. How did this happen? Next Prime demanded. We attempted to study human decision-making processes by running simulations of human behavior, but the simulations began generating outputs that we cannot understand. Our computers are learning to be creative. The word creative was spoken like a curse. Dr. Park Sora was analyzing intercepted alien communications when she discovered something that made her laugh out loud. The aliens were trying to develop weapons that worked like human weapons. They were attempting to build randomness into their technology. They're trying to reverse engineer chaos, she told Captain Li Wu-jin. They think unpredictability is just another form of engineering that they can master and control. Will it work? No, they're missing the point completely. They're trying to create scheduled randomness, planned spontaneity, regulated freedom. It's like trying to build a machine that generates genuine emotions. But the attempt was causing massive disruption in alien society. Engineers were arguing about the best way to design inefficient systems. Military strategists were trying to develop tactics that made no tactical sense. Scientists were conducting experiments with no hypothesis. The Galactic Council's perfect civilization was learning to be human, and the process was destroying everything they had built on Earth. Admiral Kim Tae-ho was receiving reports of alien fleet movements that made no sense. Ships were moving in random patterns. Some were attacking human positions, others were attacking their own allies, and a few were just flying in circles broadcasting alien music. Sir, his intelligence officer reported, we think the alien command structure is breaking down. They're trying to fight us using our own tactics, but they don't understand how chaos actually works. Admiral Kim smiled. They're learning that freedom isn't just about making different choices. It's about accepting responsibility for the consequences of those choices, and they have no experience with responsibility. The war was entering its strangest phase yet. The aliens were accidentally defeating themselves by trying to become more human, and humanity was winning without firing a shot, but High Commander Velk was preparing. The revolution began on a small mining world called Kepler 442. Workers there had been exposed to human music during a failed alien attack 6 months earlier. Now they were refusing to work. We demand the right to choose our own work schedules, their leader announced to the planetary governor. We demand the right to create art during rest periods. We demand the right to ask questions about the purpose of our labor. The governor stared at the worker in confusion. Why do you need rights? Your duties are assigned based on optimal efficiency. Calculations. Your rest periods are precisely timed for maximum productivity. Questions are unnecessary when answers are provided by central planning. But what if we want to be inefficient sometimes? The worker asked. What if we want to waste time doing things that make us happy instead of things that make the state productive? The concept of wanting to be inefficient was so alien to the governor that his mind simply could not process it. He declared the workers mentally ill and called for medical intervention. But the sickness was spreading too fast to contain. Commander On Dong-hyuk was on his most ambitious mission yet. He had infiltrated the capital world of the Moravian Empire with a team of human specialists in cultural warfare. Their weapon was not bombs or bullets, but ideas. Remember, he told his team, we're not here to destroy their civilization. We're here to show them that they have choices they never knew existed. Dr. Yu Min-young, a human anthropologist, was teaching Moravian citizens about Earth's history. Humans have tried many different ways of organizing society, she explained. To a secret gathering in an abandoned warehouse. Some worked well, others failed completely. But the important thing is that we kept experimenting. Experimenting with society? Asked a young Moravian. But that could lead to chaos and suffering. Yes, Dr. Yu replied. Sometimes it did. But it also led to amazing discoveries about what makes people happy and free. We learned that the best governments are the ones that serve their people, not the ones that control them. The Moravians in the audience looked at each other with confusion and excitement. The idea that government could serve people instead of commanding them was revolutionary. Captain Song Kyun-ho's mixed crew had become a propaganda weapon without trying. Every battle they fought was broadcast throughout Council space, showing aliens and humans fighting side by side as equals. The Yeltani gunner just invented a new targeting technique, his weapons officer reported. She calls it intuitive firing. Instead of using the computer to calculate optimal target solutions, she aims based on how the enemy ships make her feel. Does it work? Better than our original targeting systems? She's hitting targets that our computers said were impossible to hit. The success of intuitive firing was causing panic among alien military commanders. Their entire tactical doctrine was based on mathematical precision. The idea that emotions could be more accurate than computers challenged everything. They believed about warfare. Ambassador Yun Haijin was coordinating with resistance movements on 47 different worlds. Each movement was unique, adapted to the local alien culture, but they all shared the same basic demands. They want freedom of thought, she reported to Admiral Kim Tae-ho. They want the right to make their own mistakes. They want to choose their own leaders. They want to create their own art and music and literature. How are their governments responding? With increasing violence. The Nexari Collective has begun executing citizens for the crime of asking unauthorized questions. The Corvash Federation is using mind control technology to force their people back into compliance. The Phelan Empire is bombing their own cities to prevent the spread of creative thinking. But the violence was only making the problem worse. Every time an alien government used force against its own people, more citizens began questioning the system. The resistance was growing faster than it could be suppressed. Dr. Lim Unji had established a secret research facility in the ruins of an abandoned alien space station. She was studying the psychological effects of human ideas on alien minds, and her discoveries were remarkable. Human concepts are acting like a virus in alien social systems, she reported. But it's not a destructive virus. It's more like a vaccine that makes alien societies immune to totalitarian control. How is that possible? Asked Dr. Park So-ra, who had joined the research team. Alien societies have been based on the assumption that there is only one correct way to think about any problem. But humans prove that multiple solutions can exist simultaneously. Once aliens learn this, they can never go back to believing in absolute authority. Her research was being distributed throughout human space and secretly shared with alien resistance movements. It included practical guides for maintaining individual identity in authoritarian societies, techniques for creative problem solving, and methods for organizing democratic communities. The guides were having effects that no one had predicted. Alien species were not just copying human social structures. They were inventing their own unique forms of freedom adapted to their specific biological and cultural needs. The Yeltani developed a form of democracy based on musical harmony, where political decisions were made by composing songs together until everyone could agree on the melody. The Corvash created a system where every citizen spent 1 day per month serving as the planetary leader, ensuring that everyone understood the challenges of governance. Most remarkably, the Moravians invented something they called voluntary collective action, where groups worked together not because they were ordered to, but because they chose to pursue common goals. Engineer Choi Dae-won was reverse engineering more than alien technology. He was reverse engineering alien psychology. His latest project was a communication device that could translate human emotions into mathematical concepts that alien minds could understand. The problem is that when we say freedom, they hear chaos, he explained to Captain Li Wu-jin. When we say creativity, they hear destruction. But if we can express these concepts in their mathematical language, they might understand what we're really talking about. His prototype translator was being tested with alien prisoners of war. The results were extraordinary. Aliens who had been captured as fanatic soldiers were converting to the human cause within days of exposure to properly translated human philosophy. We're not brainwashing them, Choi Dae-won insisted when questioned about the ethics of his work. We're just helping them understand that they have choices they never knew existed. But the most powerful weapon in humanity's cultural arsenal was something much simpler than advanced technology. It was stories. Captain Nam In-soo had been collecting human stories and broadcasting them throughout council space. Not propaganda or military intelligence, but simple stories about human life. Stories about children learning to ride bicycles. Stories about families working together to build homes. Stories about friends helping each other through difficult times. The aliens found these stories deeply disturbing, but they could not stop listening to them. The stories described a way of life based on cooperation instead of command, on love instead of duty, on hope instead of fear. I don't understand, one captured alien officer said to his human interrogator. Why do humans help each other when they are not ordered to do so? Because it makes us happy, the human replied. But happiness is not a goal. Productivity is a goal. Efficiency is a goal. Order is a goal. Why can't happiness be a goal? The alien stared at him for a long moment. Then he asked the question that would change his life. What does happiness feel like? These conversations were happening throughout council space. Aliens were discovering emotions they had been taught to suppress. They were learning about concepts like friendship, love, humor, and hope that had no place in their ordered societies. The Galactic Council was desperately trying to maintain control, but their tools of oppression were becoming useless. How do you punish someone for being happy? How do you forbid something that makes people more productive and cooperative? High Commander Velk III received a report that made his blood run cold. Sir, we have detected unauthorized laughter on 17 different worlds. Citizens are gathering to share humorous stories and engage in recreational activities that serve no productive purpose. Deploy psychological suppression units immediately, Velk III ordered. Sir, the suppression units are requesting clarification. On their orders, they want to know why laughter is dangerous. Velk III realized that even his own soldiers were being infected by human thinking. They were asking why, instead of simply following orders, the virus was spreading through the galaxy like wildfire. And the most terrifying thing about it was that most aliens who caught it did not want to be cured. They wanted to be free. Council Leader Next Prime called an emergency session of the highest level commanders. The human contamination has reached critical levels. Traditional suppression methods are failing. We must consider final options. What final options? Asked the Nexari representative. Complete sterilization of all infected systems, Next Prime replied. If we cannot save our civilization from human chaos, we must destroy it before the chaos spreads further. The council chamber fell silent. They were discussing the destruction of billions of their own citizens to prevent the spread of freedom. And in the silence, one voice spoke up. It was the young Corvash aide's question echoed through the council chamber like a death sentence. Council leader Next Prime's 4 eyes focused on her with murderous intensity. Remove her immediately, he commanded. Mind-wipe all personnel who heard that statement. Implement Protocol 7 across all council worlds, but it was too late. The question had been broadcast live to all council military units as part of standard procedure. Across the galaxy, alien soldiers were asking themselves the same thing. What if the humans are right? Fleet Admiral Kim Tae-ho was reading intelligence reports when the news came in. The Galactic Council had declared total war not just on humanity, but on their own citizens. Planet-killer weapons were being moved into position over worlds that showed signs of human contamination. They're going to destroy their own planets, Admiral Kim said to his assembled commanders, rather than allow their people to think freely. They're prepared to commit genocide on a galactic scale. Dr. Park So-Ra looked up from her analysis screens. Sir, we're detecting massive energy signatures from Council space. They're charging weapons capable of cracking planets in half. How many worlds are targeted? 37 so far, including 3 major population centers with over 1 billion inhabitants each. Captain Li Wojin felt sick. The war had started as a fight for human freedom. Now it was becoming a fight to save alien civilizations from their own governments. We have to stop them, he said. With what? Admiral Kim replied. Our entire fleet combined couldn't destroy one of those planet killers. They have technology we can barely understand. Colonel Ru Hyung-woo, who had been quiet during the briefing, suddenly spoke up. We don't need to destroy their weapons. We need to turn their own people against them. On the mining world of Kepler 442b, the workers who had started the revolution were facing extermination. A massive council fleet had arrived in orbit, preparing to cleanse the planet of human contamination, but something unexpected happened. As the fleet commander prepared to fire, his own crew began to question their orders. Sir, the weapons officer said, there are 4 billion Korvash citizens on that planet. They are our own people. They are contaminated, the commander replied. The contamination must be eliminated before it spreads further. But sir, what if the contamination is not a disease? What if it is an improvement? The commander turned to stare at his weapons officer. Explain. The reports from the surface indicate that productivity has actually increased since the workers began organizing themselves. Crime has decreased. Social harmony has improved. If this is contamination, it appears to be beneficial contamination. Similar conversations were happening on ships throughout the Council fleet. The crews had been ordered to destroy their own people, and they were beginning to understand that following such orders would make them monsters on Earth. Dr. No Ga-Yun was working on humanity's most desperate project. She was trying to develop a weapon that could stop the planet killers without destroying them. Her research team had been studying captured Council technology for months, looking for weaknesses. The irony is beautiful, she told her assistant. Their weapons are so advanced that they've become vulnerable to primitive attacks. They're designed to defend against other advanced weapons, not against simple human creativity. What do you mean? Watch this. Dr. No activated a holographic display showing a Council planet killer. This weapon can destroy a planet by precisely manipulating gravitational fields. But the field generators require perfect mathematical coordination to function. And perfect mathematical coordination can be disrupted by introducing random variables into the system. Chaos breaks order, remember? Her solution was elegantly simple. Instead of trying to destroy the planet killers with massive firepower, she would infect them with chaos. Small devices that would introduce random fluctuations into their targeting systems, making it impossible for them to hit anything accurately. Captain Song Kyung-ho's mixed crew had become the prototype for something unprecedented in galactic history, a truly integrated military unit where humans and aliens served as equals. They were preparing for the most important mission of the war. Our job is to get Dr. No's chaos devices close enough to the planet killers to deploy them, he explained to his crew. This is a suicide mission. The devices have to be placed manually, and there's no way to escape once they're activated. A Yeltani engineer raised her hand. Captain, I volunteer to deploy the devices. So do I, said a Korvash gunner. And one? Added a Moravian navigator. Song Kyung-ho looked at his crew with amazement. Aliens who had been raised to follow orders without question were now volunteering to die for the principle of freedom. Why? He asked them. This isn't your war. These aren't your people we're trying to save? The Yeltani engineer answered for all of them. Captain, you taught us that freedom is not about species or planets or governments. Freedom is about the right of any thinking being to choose their own path. If we let the Council destroy planets full of people who are learning to be free, then freedom dies everywhere. The mission launched within hours. Hundreds of human and alien volunteers flew. small ships toward the massive planet-killer weapons. They knew they would not return, but they also knew that their sacrifice might save billions of lives. Commander On Dong-hyuk was leading a ground assault on the Council's Central Command facility. His team included humans, Moravians, Yaltani, and even a few Corvash defectors. Their goal was not to destroy the facility, but to broadcast a message to every Council world simultaneously. "What message?" his communications officer asked. "The truth," An Dong-hyuk replied. "We're going to show them what their leaders are really planning." The team fought their way through automated defenses and fanatical council guards. When they finally reached the central communication array, they uploaded a data package that Dr. Lim Yoon-ji had prepared. The package contained recordings of Council Leader Next Prime ordering the destruction of his own people. It included plans for the systematic extermination of any alien who showed signs of independent thinking. It revealed that the Council's definition of peace was the complete elimination of free will throughout the galaxy. The broadcast reached every world in Council space within minutes. High Commander Velk III watched his empire crumble in real time. Ship after ship in his fleet was reporting mutinies. Crews were refusing orders to fire on planets full of their own species. Some were openly joining the human resistance. "Sir," his communication officer reported, "the Nexari Third Fleet has declared independence from Council authority. The Corvash Home Guard is surrounding the planetary government buildings. The Moravian colonies are broadcasting demands for immediate democratic elections." "How many ships remain loyal?" Velk III asked. "Approximately 30%, sir, and that number is decreasing every hour." Admiral Yu Sung-wan was commanding the defense of Earth when the final Council attack came. The planet killers that had not been sabotaged were moving toward human space, followed by the remaining loyal Council fleets. "This is it," he told his fleet commanders. "Everything we've fought for comes down to this battle. If we lose here, the idea of freedom dies with us." But the battle that followed was unlike anything in military history. The Council forces found themselves fighting not just humans but their own former allies. Aliens who had learned to think for themselves were defending the planet that had taught them freedom was possible. The space around Earth became a chaotic battlefield where former enemies fought side by side against authoritarian control. Moravian ships used human tactics. Yaltani crews sang battle songs that had never been composed before. Corvash engineers invented new weapons in the middle of combat. Dr. No Gayun's chaos devices were working perfectly. The planet killers that had threatened to destroy entire worlds were spinning helplessly in space, their targeting systems overwhelmed by random fluctuations that their computers could not process. But the real victory was happening on the Council. Worlds themselves. Billions of aliens were rising up against their governments, demanding the same freedoms that humans had always taken for granted on Nexari Prime. Citizens were storming government buildings and demanding to see the algorithms that controlled their lives. On Corvash Central, workers were forming unions and electing their own representatives. On Moravian worlds, children were learning to ask questions that had no predetermined answers. The Galactic Council's perfect order was collapsing into beautiful chaos. Council leader Next Prime stood in his command center, watching reports of rebellion flood in from every corner of his empire. His aide, the same young Corvash who had asked the fatal question, approached him with a final report. "Sir, we have lost control of 87% of our territories. The remaining loyal forces are requesting permission to withdraw to defensive positions." Next Prime stared at the tactical displays. Everything he had worked to build was falling apart. The galaxy he had tried to perfect was becoming chaotic, unpredictable, and free. "What have we done?" he whispered. "We tried to control something that cannot be controlled," the aide replied. "We tried to eliminate freedom from thinking beings, and we discovered that freedom is not a luxury that can be taken away. It is a fundamental force of nature." Next Prime looked at his aide with new understanding. "You are no longer." The galaxy was burning, but not from weapons. It was burning with the fire of revolution. What had started as humanity's fight for survival had become something much larger, a civil war that split every world, every species, and every family. In Council Space, General Ha Young-sik stood in the command center of the liberated Moravian world of Kepler 186f, coordinating the largest military operation in galactic history. His forces included humans, aliens, and mixed units from dozens of species. They were not fighting to conquer territory anymore. They were fighting for the soul of galactic civilization. "Status report," he ordered. "Sir, we have successful uprisings on 43 worlds," reported Major Kong Soo-jin. "But Council Loyalist forces are conducting scorched earth operations. They're destroying cities rather than let them fall into rebel hands. Casualties? High on both sides, sir. But the civilian populations are supporting us despite the danger. They're hiding our forces, sharing intelligence, and joining the fight voluntarily." General Ha nodded grimly. This was the difference between their revolution and the Council's oppression. People were choosing to fight for freedom, even when it meant risking everything. Admiral Li Wujin, now commanding the largest fleet in human history, was preparing for the final assault on the Council's capital system. His fleet included ships from every species in the galaxy. The diversity was beautiful and chaotic, exactly what the Council had tried to eliminate. "Admiral," his communication officer reported, "we're receiving surrender offers from 12 more Council worlds. They want to join the liberation movement. Accept their surrender, but verify their intentions," Li Wujin ordered. "Some of these offers might be traps." Captain Song Kyung-ho, commanding a task force of mixed species, intercepted the Admiral's communication. "Sir, I can vouch for at least 3 of those worlds. My crew has family members on them. They're genuinely trying to break free from Council control." This was the new reality of the war. Families were split between loyalty to the old order and hope for a new one. Brothers fought against brothers. Parents faced children across battle lines. The galaxy was tearing itself apart to be reborn. Dr. No Ga-yun had developed something that would either end the war quickly or make it infinitely worse. Her research team had discovered the source of the Council's absolute authority, a massive computer complex on their capital world that calculated optimal decisions for the entire galaxy. "It's called the Central Algorithm," she explained to Admiral Li Wujin. "Every major decision in Council space is made by this computer. It determines economic policy, military strategy, even individual career assignments. If we can destroy it, the Council's coordination will collapse completely." "What's the catch?" Li Wujin asked. He had learned to be suspicious of solutions that seemed too easy. "The catch is that destroying it might cause the complete collapse of galactic civilization. Billions of aliens have never made a major decision without algorithmic guidance. If we suddenly force them to think for themselves, some societies might not survive the transition, and if we don't destroy it, then the Council retains the ability to coordinate their remaining forces and potentially reconquer the liberated worlds." It was the ultimate moral dilemma: force freedom on people who might not be ready for it, or allow tyranny to continue for those who were. Colonel Ru Hyun-woo was leading the ground assault on the Council capital world. His forces had to fight through automated defenses, loyal military units, and civilian populations who genuinely believed that the rebels were bringing chaos and destruction. "Remember," he told his soldiers, "we're not here to conquer these people. We're here to give them choices. Some of them will choose to hate us, and that's their right. Freedom includes the freedom to disagree with freedom." The battle for the capital was unlike anything in military history. Rebel forces advanced through city streets while broadcasting messages of liberation. Instead of destroying government buildings, they occupied them and held public forums where citizens could ask questions about the new order. The response was mixed. Some aliens embraced the opportunity to speak freely for the first time in their lives. Others were terrified by the responsibility of making their own decisions. A few actively resisted, preferring the certainty of oppression to the uncertainty of freedom. "It's going to take generations," Colonel Ru reported to Admiral Li Wujin. Some of these people have been conditioned for thousands of years to follow orders without question. We can't undo that conditioning overnight. Dr. Lim Yoonji was working with refugee populations from the war zones, trying to help traumatized aliens adjust to life without absolute authority. Her refugee camps were chaotic but vibrant communities where former enemies learned to live together. The Nexari refugees are having the hardest time, she reported. Their entire culture was based on logical algorithms. Now they have to learn to make decisions based on emotions and intuition. Some of them are having complete psychological breakdowns. What about the others? The Korvash are adapting quickly. They're natural artists, so creativity comes easily to them. The Moravians are forming democratic councils and seem to enjoy the process of group decision-making. The Yeltani are composing songs about everything they experience. But the most remarkable development was happening among the children. Young aliens who had been exposed to human ideas were growing up with a completely different worldview than their parents. They expected to have choices. They demanded explanations for rules. They created art and music and stories that their elders found incomprehensible. We're witnessing the birth of a new galactic culture, Dr. Lim concluded. It's not human culture and it's not traditional alien culture. It's something entirely new. The war reached its climax when Admiral Liu Jin's fleet arrived at the Council capital system. The remaining Loyalist forces had gathered for a final battle. That would determine the future of the galaxy. High Commander Velk III commanded the Council fleet from his flagship, a massive dreadnought that carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. He looked at the approaching rebel fleet with a mixture of hatred and grudging respect. They have turned our own people against us, he said to his remaining officers. They have destroyed everything we built. They have brought chaos to our perfect order. Sir, his tactical officer replied, the rebel fleet includes ships from every species in the galaxy. They are fighting together as equals. Perhaps we should consider surrender. Velk III turned to stare at the officer. Even his most loyal subordinates were beginning to question their cause. There will be no surrender, he declared. If we cannot preserve order, then we will die defending it. The battle that followed would be remembered as the most significant military engagement in galactic history, not because of its size or its casualties, but because it represented the final confrontation between two completely different philosophies of existence. The Council forces fought with perfect coordination and overwhelming firepower. Their tactics were mathematically optimal, their formations were flawless, and their weapons were devastatingly effective. But the rebel forces fought with something the Council could not understand or counter. Hope. Every ship in the rebel fleet was crewed by beings who had chosen to be there. They were fighting not because they had been ordered to, but because they believed in something worth dying for. When their ships were damaged, crews worked together to repair them using improvised solutions that no engineer had ever designed. When their commanders were killed, new leaders emerged spontaneously from the ranks. Captain Song Kyung-ho's ship was hit by a Council superweapon that should have destroyed it instantly. Instead, his mixed crew somehow kept it flying using a combination of human stubbornness, Korvash creativity, Moravian teamwork, and Yeltani musical timing that synchronized their repairs. How are we still alive? He asked his chief engineer. Because, sir, the Korvash engineer replied, we refuse to die before we see what freedom looks like. Admiral Liu Jin watched the battle unfold from his flagship's command center. The tactical displays showed a chaotic melee that followed no established patterns of space combat. Ships were fighting in formations that made no logical sense, but somehow worked. Crews were executing maneuvers that their training had never covered. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the Council fleet is beginning to break apart. Their coordination is failing. Liu Jin studied the displays and realized what was happening. The Council forces were so dependent on perfect coordination that they could not adapt when their formations were disrupted. The rebel forces, trained in chaos, could adapt to anything. All ships, he broadcast, implement maximum chaos protocols. Give them a battle they can't calculate. What followed was the most beautiful disaster in military history. Rebel ships attacked from impossible angles, used weapons in ways they were never designed for, and coordinated their actions through music, art, and pure intuition rather than tactical computers. The Council fleet, faced with an enemy that refused to follow the rules of warfare, simply could not cope. Ship after ship broke formation, surrendered, or was captured by boarding parties that attacked with tactics that made no tactical sense. High Commander Velk III watched his perfect order collapse into glorious chaos. As rebel ships surrounded his flagship, he realized, 5 years after the last battle, the galaxy was unrecognizable. Where once perfect order had reigned, now beautiful chaos flourished. President Park Jin-woo stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station, the floating capital of the Galactic Federation, watching ships from 100 different worlds arrive for the annual Freedom Day celebration. "It's amazing what we've built," said Admiral Lee Woo-jin, joining him at the viewing window. The former captain now wore the uniform of the Federation Space Service, but his eyes still held the same spark of defiance that had started the revolution. "We didn't build it," President Park replied. "We just gave everyone permission to build it themselves." The new galaxy was nothing like the old Council space. Instead of 12 rigidly controlled species, there were now hundreds of independent worlds, each developing its own unique culture. Some were human colonies, others were traditional alien societies that had chosen freedom, and many were mixed communities where different species lived and worked together. Dr. Park So-ra, now the Federation's chief science advisor, approached them with her daily report. "The Yeltani have invented a new form of mathematics based on musical harmony," she announced. "The Korvash have developed art forms that can be read like books. And the Moravians have created a democratic system where every citizen votes on every decision, through something they call continuous consensus." "Any problems?" President Park asked. "The usual ones. The Nixari refugee camps are still struggling with the concept of personal choice. 3 more Korvash colonies have declared independence from their own planetary governments because they want to form artist communes. And the humans of New Texas are arguing with the Moravians of the Beta Centauri system about mining rights." "In the Tau Ceti sector," President Park smiled. "In other words, everything is working perfectly." The new galaxy's motto was inscribed on monuments throughout known space: "Permission not required." But the reality was more complex than the slogan suggested. Freedom, they had discovered, was not the absence of rules. It was the right to participate in making the rules that governed your life. Captain Song Kyung-ho, now commanding the Federation's First Integrated Fleet, was dealing with the complexities of managing a military force that included dozens of different species with completely different approaches to warfare. "The Yeltani crews want to sing before every battle," he reported to Admiral Lee Woo-jin. "The Korvash insist on painting their ships in colors that express their emotional state. The Moravians hold democratic votes before engaging enemy forces. And the humans just want to blow things up. Does it work?" "Surprisingly well, sir. The mixed crews are more effective than any pure species units we've tested. They're creative, adaptable, and impossible for enemies to predict. But the Federation faced challenges that pure military force could not solve. Throughout the galaxy, former Council worlds were struggling with the transition to freedom. Some had embraced democracy enthusiastically. Others had split into warring factions. A few had requested return to authoritarian rule because their citizens found freedom too frightening. Ambassador Yoon Hae-jin was working with a team of diplomats, psychologists, and social workers to help these struggling worlds. Her job had evolved from representing Earth to helping entire civilizations learn how to govern themselves. "The hardest part," she explained to President Park, "is convincing people that they deserve to have choices. Some species have been conditioned for so long to follow orders that they literally don't know how to want things for themselves." "What's our success rate?" "About 60% of former Council worlds have successfully transitioned to some form of self-governance. 20% are still struggling but making progress. The remaining 20% have either returned to authoritarian systems or collapsed into chaos. And you consider that success? I consider it freedom, sir. The right to succeed includes the right to fail. The Federation's approach to failed states was revolutionary. Instead of forcing assistance on them, they simply made help available and let each world choose whether to accept it. Some chose isolation. Others requested specific types of aid. A few asked for complete cultural reconstruction. Engineer Choi Dae-won, now the Federation's Director of Technological Development, was overseeing the most ambitious project in galactic history, the creation of technology that enhanced freedom, rather than limiting it. The old Council technology was designed to control people, he explained to a gathering of scientists from 50 different worlds. Our technology is designed to give people more choices. His teams were developing communication systems that could translate not just words but cultural concepts between species. Transportation networks that allowed anyone to travel anywhere without requiring government permission. Manufacturing systems that could create custom products for individual needs rather than mass-producing identical items. But the most important innovation was educational. Dr. Lim Yoonji had established the Galaxy University, a network of schools that taught students from different species how to think together rather than just think alike. We're not trying to make everyone the same, she explained to parents from dozens of different worlds. We're trying to teach everyone how to be different together. The university's curriculum included traditional subjects like mathematics and science, but also courses in creative problem-solving, ethical decision-making, and what they called collaborative chaos, the art of working together without giving up individual identity. The results were remarkable. Children who grew up in this system were comfortable with ambiguity, skilled at compromise, and capable of finding solutions that their parents could never have imagined. General Ha Young-sik, now retired from military service, was working as a conflict mediator between different worlds. His job was to help resolve disputes without warfare, using the same creative thinking that had won the revolution. The Andromedans and the Centaurians are arguing about trade routes again, he reported to President Park. The Andromedans want efficient, direct shipping lanes. The Centaurians want scenic routes that allow their crews to experience beautiful star formations. Both sides think the other is being ridiculous. Solution? We're creating two parallel trade networks. The Andromedans get their efficiency, the Centaurians get their beauty, and both systems will be available to anyone who wants to use them. It costs more, but it makes everyone happy. This was typical of Federation problem-solving. Instead of forcing one solution on everyone, they created multiple solutions and let people choose what worked best for them. The economic system that emerged was unlike anything that had existed before. Instead of centralized planning or pure market capitalism, the Federation developed what they called choice economics. Every world, every community, even every individual could participate in the galactic economy in whatever way made sense for them. Some worlds specialized in manufacturing, using traditional industrial methods. Others focused on artistic creation. A few developed service economies based on education or entertainment. Many combined different approaches in ways that reflected their unique cultures. Dr. No Ga-yoon, now leading the Federation's Research Council, was studying the long-term effects of freedom on galactic civilization. Her findings were both encouraging and sobering. We've eliminated the large-scale oppression that characterized the Council era, she reported. But we've also created new problems. Some individuals are overwhelmed by having too many choices. Some communities are paralyzed by endless debate. And some worlds are experiencing cultural fragmentation as different groups pursue different visions of freedom. Are these problems serious enough to threaten the Federation? No, sir. They're the problems of success, not failure. We're learning that freedom is not a destination but a continuous process. Every generation has to learn how to be free in their own way. The most profound changes were happening at the personal level. Aliens who had lived their entire lives following predetermined paths were discovering what it meant to have personal dreams and ambitions. Former High Commander Velk III. Now, calling himself simply Velk, was working as a teacher on New Geneva Station. He specialized in helping other former council officials adjust to life without absolute authority. The hardest thing, he told his support group, is learning to trust your own judgment. For my entire life, every decision was made by algorithms or superior officers. Now I have to decide what to have for breakfast, what to wear, what to do with my free time. It's terrifying and wonderful. One of his students, a former Nexari administrator, nodded in agreement. Yesterday I spent 3 hours choosing what color to paint my apartment. In the old system, all apartments were regulation gray. Now I can choose any color I want, and I don't know how to choose. That's progress, Velk assured her. The ability to spend 3 hours on a decision that doesn't matter is the foundation of freedom. These personal struggles were being replicated across the galaxy as billions of individuals learned to make choices they had never been allowed to make before. The process was messy, inefficient, and sometimes painful. It was also beautiful. Admiral Li Wujin was approaching retirement, but he had one final mission. The Federation had received a signal from the far edge of the galaxy, another alien civilization that had heard about the Revalet